I hope that you guys are at least somewhat familiar with this game, so I'll assume that you are, so I won't spend too much time setting it up. Of course, in MMO set in a real world, players join one of 3 secret societies, and today we're going to be showing some really cool new stuff that we haven't shown anybody before except the people who came before you today, but this is a premiere of some of our cool new systems and contents. So we're going to switch into the character creation right now and show you that. Before we shown you the Illuminati startup experience, taking you through New York, Templar startup, taking you through London, and you'll actually be able to get some hands-on time with London and hopefully Kingsmouth after this presentation. But today the focus is on the dragon, and we're going to create a dragon character right now and take a little bit of a look at our character creation. Contains what you expect the character creation to contain. A lot of flexibility in terms of creating the perfect looking character to be able to look how you want to look. So we're going to go with one of the base sets here. We're of course going to increase the selection for launch. Right now the selection is a bit limited. Change the eyes, change the eye color. Again, we're trying to make it as flexible as possible without having like a huge amount of sliders that people need to deal with. I'm a fan of simplified character creations myself, but we'll still have enough options for everybody to look very unique. And we'll have a bigger selection of noses, lips, and jaws as well for launch. For now, we're just going to stick with something that looks pretty good. I think that's good. And then we're going to look at hairstyles as well. Again, a lot of choices, big selection. You can have any hair color you want. So let's go with something that looks a little bit, yeah, that's good. That's the one we always go with. So. This is very tightly scripted. You can change the eyebrow color as well. Of course, with men, you can have a little bit of stubble in any color you want. And then we have also the option of having different kinds of makeup. Right now, we just have this extreme variant. But we'll go with no makeup whatsoever. And then we'll look at the clothing selection. Clothing selection in character creation will be reasonably limited. We'll have a lot more than this, but we want people to be able to unlock and get new clothing in the game as rewards for dungeons and the missions and things like that, and also to be able to purchase it in the clothing store in London with in-game currency. So right now we're just going to make something that looks good for the field. Right, get some red sneakers here. We can also vary the character size a bit. Smaller or bigger. We'll choose something in between, and finally we'll be able to create a name. This is a game set in a real world, so of course you will be able to have a first name and a last name, but your nickname, your middle name, is going to be your unique character name. That's how people will address you in the game. Alright, so having created our character, let's jump into Soul. And I'll let Joel Bylas, who's the lead content designer, talk a little bit about the Dragon startup experience.
Hi. Hey guys, welcome. Yeah, we're going to be taking a look at the Dragon startup experience today, but I'll first talk a little bit about the hub cities. So every faction has their own hub city where they start the game. The Templars have London, the Illuminati have New York, and the Dragon have Seoul. Now, each of them have a very different feeling. Each of them have a very different startup experience. We'll talk a little more about that as we proceed here, but first we'll show you how Seoul looks when we switch into Seoul now, I assume. Yeah, we'll be following a Soul character. Just to set up a little bit of the background. In the Illuminati startup, the player is met by their recruiter and basically threatened and told to find the Illuminati headquarters as their interview. In London, they meet the Templar recruiter and they're basically asked to come join. And for the Dragon, they're kidnapped, thrown in the back of a van, driven through the streets of a city, thrown out the back of the van onto the ground, and when they stand up, they're here. And they turn around and they find that the street that they were thrown out the back of the car, it has disappeared and there's a wall there. And now they're trapped in this mysterious location in Seoul, South Korea. So the first thing they want to do is start searching for someone who can help them, show them the way. So we find a strange child in a raincoat, and we're going to chase her through the streets of the city. It's all ties into the chaos and sort of the philosophy of the Dragon, and that is that order comes from chaos. So not understanding what is happening is a big part of actually being in the Dragon faction. You will be doing things that you don't always understand, but they will always have a meaningful root in the game world. So this is the Soul Hub. All of the hubs in the game have social activities for the players to take part in. It's kind of the social areas of the game. We have auction houses, banks, fight clubs. We have a dancing floor in London and a theatre for people to use. And the idea is to sort of allow players to gather in these areas to be social before they head out to do adventures in the wider world. Alright, so we really tried hard to sort of create the feeling of being in Seoul. I don't know if any of you guys have visited, but this is sort of based on an area of the city that people have been to, and we're trying to recreate that feeling. And a lot of the things that we use, like this boutique hotel, is based on the sort of boutique hotels you find in Seoul, quite common. Over on the right, there's a karaoke bar, and there's a little more about that in the story later on. But we're going to follow the child upstairs and see where she leads us. And what she's leading us to. And so what we really want Dragon players to be asking themselves all the time is what is going on here? What is this all about? And hopefully you'll be furnished with some answers now. Or more questions.
You're shy. Shy, confused, lost. You're not lost anymore. The dragon found you. And now, you found me. Everything happens for a reason. Every event, no matter how small, has consequences. They will ask you to do things, and most of the time, you will not know why, or what the consequences may be. It is the curse of the dragon. We do not know why we do what we do, but we do it regardless, because they tell us it is right. From chaos, there is order and clarity. The one moment of absolute clarity comes in that brief of ecstasy. When our minds are empty, we are receptive to the truth. Most of the time, you will not understand the reasons. You will not be able to see the consequences of your actions. But there is one event you must understand. One truth. It's my job to help you see it.
So every faction has their own unique way of arriving at the place that you're going to see now. The Templars arrive there through the ravings of a madman on the streets of London. The Illuminati arrive there through being injected by drugs by a mad doctor beneath the streets of New York. And the Dragon arrive there in a slightly different way, as you saw now. So every faction has their own philosophical approach to the game, which leads them to this location. And I'm not going to talk too much about this because we've shown this before and talked about it before. But I do want to point out the black stuff on the walls here, which is known as the filth. The filth was there at the instigating event, which begins the entire story of the game. And the filth is a very important part of the story. So, as the player progresses through the game, they'll be learning more about the story of the filth as well. And we're going to cover that in detail throughout this presentation. We'll be coming back to the filth over and over again. So, for now, we're going to jump ahead to a later part of the game and talk about the combat mechanics. We're going to jump into an Egypt playfield, and Martin's going to come up and talk to you guys about that.
Yeah. So, as the player is playing the game, he will be getting experience points. And you can get experience points through many different sources in the game. Doing missions, doing tasks for your secret society, doing PvP, crafting, or just killing monsters. And at the line at the bottom here is your XP bar. And as you can see, it's divided up in 3 segments. And when the player fills out one segment, 1/3 of it, he will be given an ability point. It looks like that. When the player fills out the whole bar, he will be given a skill point, which looks like that. And the player can spend these points in the ability wheel. In the ability wheel, we have over 500 unique abilities spread out across 9 different weapon types. We have shotguns, pistols, assault rifles, blades, hammers, fist weapons, blood magic, chaos magic, and elementalism. And there are 2 categories of abilities. Active abilities, which are the abilities that you actively press to make something happen in the game, like a sword attack or a sniper shot. Equally important are the passive abilities that are always affecting your character and can really change the way your active abilities work. Each of these tiny squares here are referred to as a cell, and in each cell there are 7 abilities. And the player has to purchase these sequentially, starting with the more basic ones at the top, and working the way towards the bottom, where they find the elite abilities. The elite abilities are super awesome and special, and the players can only equip 1 active elite and 1 passive elite ability at the time. But you can't run around with all 500 abilities. You have to make a selection: 7 actives and 7 passives. Now, there's tons of synergy between these abilities. The player can wield 2 weapons at the same time, so a lot of the player's skills comes in finding the right weapons or the combination of weapons, but also finding abilities that work well with each other. So with that, sorry, we're just going to close this and take a look at how combat works. So the character that we're following now is wielding an assault rifle and a shotgun. Every weapon has a unique resource attached to them. You're either building resources on your target, or you're building resources on yourself with certain abilities called builders. And you can consume those resources for a special effect, like extra damage, extra healing, crowd control, lots of different cool things. So you see, which is using these certain types of, I'll show you in a sec, where she uses these particular abilities called builders. You can tell if she's building on herself down here or on the target as these tiny pips above the monster's head. Also, each weapon brings something unique to the table. You can play as a damage dealer with any weapon, but it also has like a secondary role. The assault rifle, for instance, has leeching abilities, meaning these attacks will return a percentage of the damage back to you as healing. And when she uses that, you'll see that she's getting health back here on the left-hand side. She's also wielding a shotgun, and a shotgun is great for fighting multiple enemies at the same time, because it just damages everything in front of her, not needing a target, kind of like a real shotgun. You might have also noticed that you can move and fight at the same time. You don't have to stand still to use these abilities, and this is a really important part of the game, because you can avoid a lot of bad things if you just read the monster's animations and pay attention to your surroundings. You can really avoid a lot of damage or bad things happening to you. So that's an important part of the game. But right now, these 2 guys have arrived at a big bad boss, which is a nice opportunity to show another really important part of the secret world. We don't have any classes. We're never locked down to a certain playstyle, and right now they really need a tank in order to get this guy down, like a tank-like character. So right now, as I said, he's playing with the assault rifle and shotgun, but through the gear manager, you can switch out your entire set of gear and your entire set of abilities with a click of a button. So we pre-made a build here with swords and hammers, which is great for soaking up a lot of damage and also holding aggro. Certain gear, the chakras, the gear, the items that give you stats, and also 2 weapons.